I never stopped writing. I feel like more than playing any instrument, I think songwriting is the thing that really never left me. So that's the one thing I kept hanging on to na maybe one day I'll get back to it. And one day is now. I still had things to say or sing about. So I really fought to come back.
How goes it, ladies and gents? This is Enzo, and you're watching the Able Podcast. Today, we're stoked to have Kai Del Rio with us. We're going to explore her journey as a singer-songwriter, her new releases, and the personal experiences that shaped her music. Let's dive in. So Kai, finally,
Yes.
we've been planning this for months. We've been
I
talking,
know.
and it's finally happened. The
Yeah.
storm stopped it last time, but I'm finally
Yeah,
glad.
storm like me.
That's what I was going to get to.
Okay,
that.
sorry. Naunahan kita.
No, but yeah, so congrats on your releases.
Thank you.
So let's start there. So how did these two songs come about, and how did they start?
So it took me 10 years to get these songs out. For people who don't know, I used to perform under my maiden name, Kai Honasan. And then medyo naudlot yung solo project ko nun because I did The Voice. And then I couldn't promote my own music while in the contest. And then when I exited the show, went into a band and stuff, and that was like almost a decade of my life. So it took me 10 years to get back to releasing solo music. So yeah.
10 years, no?
Yeah.
So, but during that time, were you already writing on the side, making your own music?
Yeah, I never stopped writing. I feel like more than playing any instrument, I think songwriting is the thing that really never left me. So that's the one thing I kept hanging on to na maybe one day I'll get back to it. And one day is now. And I don't know, usually people will say in your 30s, like maybe, you have to think about other things already. But I just felt like I still had things to say or sing about. So I really fought to come back.
Was there one specific turning point that was like, all right, it's time. Now's the time.
I think like everyone else, the pandemic. I think there was a lot of self-reflection on what am I gonna do next? Like, because my life was just playing shows 6 times a week. And I thought that was gonna be it. And I did it for my 20s. I thought that was the same thing for my 30s. But when the pandemic hit, I was like, I think there are decisions I have to make for myself and for my future. And I did them. And now it's only starting now. I mean, it's a bit, people are always saying, it took you so long, ang tagal mo nawala. But as long as I came back, I just told myself, just come back, just put one song out, 2 songs, and then see where it goes. So.
Okay, so let's jump into one of those songs, ang Nag-Iisa. You mentioned in another interview that this is one of the songs that's been with you for a few years now.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that for a bit and how you finally went to writing it and finishing it?
So my whole, I grew up really a child of, just watching showbiz and all of that, mga ASAP. And you know how the big divas have titles, like Star for All Seasons, yung mga ganon. And I always dreamed of having a title.
Okay, kanino ka dyan muna? Yun muna. That's the important question. Who was your...
Regine.
Okay.
Asia Songbirds. Sabi ko,
Okay,
ano kaya yung ako? But I don't have, the funny thing is I don't have a diva voice. So it
I
feels
beg
like
to
I'm a bit
disagree.
delusional in that sense. Pero sabi ko sa sarili ko, when I was gigging and I was playing the ukulele, how absurd to think that I could compare myself to them. Kaya sabi ko, kailangan may title rin ako pag mag-asap na ako. So inisip ko, ang nag-iisang Kai Honasan.
Ganda.
So I always said, my album will be ang nag-iisa. And then they'll introduce me as ang nag-iisang Kai Honasan. Like,
Ganda.
it was this whole, I'm really a visual person. So I would
Yeah.
imagine the stages, Araneta, ganyan. Nag-iisa. And I told myself it would be a song. Ang nag-iisa would be a song. But I never could write it because nothing was coming out that would give justice to the title, ang nag-iisa. Because I was just a happy-go-lucky person when I was starting out in the industry. And I was playing the ukulele. Everything was bubbly. So I shelved it. And I said, okay, maybe I'll just come to that. It'll just be some idea that I have. Because when I write songs, I always think of the titles first.
Okay.
So parang, sabi ko, dyan na lang muna siya. And then, life happened and I grew up. I grew up and I experienced a lot of things within the industry that kind of jaded me. And then I went back to my notes app and things I saved there. And ang Nag-Iisa, andun pa rin.
Okay.
And then when I started writing again, okay, that's when I realized ang Nag-Iisa is supposed to be this kind of song.
It is that.
It's that kind of
kind
song.
of
It's
song,
a little
yep.
bit angry. It's actually not a little bit.
Just a
Just
bit.
a smidge.
Just a bit.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
angry, it's angsty. And I was like, oh, so this is gonna be what it is. And yeah, so I wrote it. And then I had been writing so much other songs because I had this vision of coming back and I would be like Carly Rae Jepsen or whatever. But I could just not bring myself to be happy given everything that was happening. So when I wrote that, I was like, oh, I think this is what I want to come back as. I think there's a place for this kind of emotion in the industry right now.
It's beautiful. It's a very stinging song,
Yeah.
but it's hidden behind this really infectious groove.
Yeah.
Right. But so when the song was developing, what came first? Did that groove come first, or did the lyrics come first? What was going on there?
The lyrics came first, and I feel like I grew up thinking everything had to be like this sweeping ballad, which I eventually did. But
Yep.
when I was writing it, I gave myself challenges along the way when I was writing this song. I was like, I don't like minor keys, like personally, because I just want everything to be happy. And then I wrote in C minor this song, and then I was like, oh, wait, let me explore this side of me. And then, syempre, when you're writing in minor keys, it's like dark and sad or whatever.
And brooding.
Brooding, and then I don't rap. But then I was like, what if this wasn't, we're getting a little technical here, but what if this wasn't flowy and melodic and ballady? So what if I tried to rap? And I always wanted na Tagalog yung first song. And Tagalog, it's so easy to go romantic and it's so easy to go harsh.
That's true.
So I wanted to go against my usual. So I was like, what if I try this kind of like groove na
syncopate, yeah.
And then so I started writing that, and I was like, oh, this is different. And it's easier to rhyme in a groove because you're flowing with it. And then so I finished it, in a few days, and someone had asked me to play a gig. Actually, no, it was at the Barb's 25th anniversary. It wasn't someone.
Someone, just,
it's just my
just
sister.
whatever. Yeah.
So it was her 25th anniversary, and they had all been bugging me, mag-gig ka na ulit. Yan. And I hadn't had that one song I wanted to make like my flagship song. And then when I wrote that, and then that inquiry came in, I was like, oh, I think it's time. It's time. So that's how it came about. And yeah, in the making of it, there always our house and our street is all musicians, and there was a lot of access to people just
coming in
musicians
and out.
coming in and out, and one of those musicians was Bajao de Castro. And he's always like, he's my husband's one of my husband's best friends, and he said, ano na yung ganun sila mga boys. Ano na, sana yung kanta? And I always felt musically like we had the same taste. And then so I'm kind of shy to share it with my siblings. I was shy to share it with my husband. But with Bajao, I was like, I feel like he might like this. And he's a drummer.
Yeah.
So, I asked him, do you want to hear the song? Do you want to play drums for me in this one gig? Let's see where it goes. So yeah, I made him listen to the song. He came up with the frame of the song, the groove. We brought John Apura in. Basta the party bass boys are just always at home. So I was like, let's just take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So Echo played the initial bass parts on it. So we built that demo and then played it. Felt good. I was like, okay. So this was like March 2023. That was at the Barb's anniversary, right here in 123 block. So that was kind of how that started. Took a few more months before the recording, but that's how ang Nag-Iisa started.
Okay, so let's jump into the recording part. You went from a group of killer musicians in their own right to another group of killer musicians. So sila Ira Cruz, your brother. Can you talk about how they took the initial song and made it the fully formed song that it is right now?
Yeah, so I'm completely, I guess the trend here is that I'm delusional. So I keep hiring these incredible musicians to play with my feelings. But anyway, I like there's no one in the world I would rather impress than my brother. Like he's the one I'm scared of the most, more than my own parents or more than my husband. It's my brother because he practically like raised me. So I knew that I wanted him to be in the studio with me because it's also groovy. It's like there's no one
Right.
groovier than him.
No one. Yeah.
And then so I had been in like weird like music business stuff that nothing was really coming into fruition. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go into the studio and just hire who I want to hire and then see where it goes. And then so I thankfully had some help with Tower of Doom. Like this is so funny
Wow.
because Eric Perlas of Tower of Doom is the best friend of my cousin Garon.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then so
Cog.
yeah, Cog. So when I was asking, I was thinking like, where can I record? And I called Kuya Garon. He was like, why aren't you recording at Tower of Doom? They've known you since you were a child.
Since you were a kid,
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
like literally I would call Kuya Eric's house and ask where my brother was. And then so I ended up calling Tower of Doom, and it was so funny that they were doing tower sessions with Chico Sai. So Echo was there, and then it's like, I need a studio. Would it be okay if I record? And they were like, done. Don't have to think about
Wow.
it.
Solid.
Just come over. And then so I had to schedule Kuya Karel, and I was like, Kuya Karel, can you produce this song? This is the demo. He's like, okay, but I get to choose the musicians. I was like, obviously. And sure, like, okay. And then he's like, okay, so when we scheduled it, it's like, okay, Kuya Ira's coming, Kuya Nico's coming, Kuya Rickson's coming. So I was like, so, okay. And then I remember going into the studio, and it had been 10 years since I recorded my own song. Because the last one was Liwanag for Rock Supremo. It was this thing before. And it had been so long, and I told myself,
That's
okay.
the play, di ba?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
the ballet.
yeah, the play,
And then, so this was the first time. That's why I always tell people in interviews, like, this doesn't feel like a comeback. This is my debut. Because I never got to do it properly before. Like, I
Okay.
never got to promote it because I was under contract and everything.
That's true.
So, for the first time, this is all on me. So, but the funny thing is, like, I come into the studio and I'm like, okay, so Kuya Rickson has to record first the drums. And then I was telling Kuya Carla, I was like, okay, Kuya, ito yung parang medyo feel ko. And he was like, umupo ka na lang. But because, you know, he took complete control of it, which, you know, that's his role as the producer.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and I remember like that's hours, how many hours were we in Tower of Doom? And I just started like tearing up. Wow. Because I was like, oh, okay, I feel like there's still a place for me.
That's
And
beautiful, yeah.
like, everyone just coming together and sharing their time and their talents and seeing Kuya Rickson lay the initial parts, building from what Bajo already made, to Kuya Rickson like dressing it up. And then when Kuya Ira was coming in with his guitar parts, and I was like, this is insane. Like, I don't deserve this, but I have to take it and run with it. And, you know, these guys, specifically like Kuya Carl and Kuya Nico, have known me since I was like 6. Well, Kuya Nico and Kuya Carl has known me since I was 0 years old. But they've known me since I was very young. So they know like I like the drama in songs. That's why ang Nag-Iisa is such a, you know, there's so much happening. It's such a dramatic, it's such a dramatic song. And they knew I didn't have to say a word. They just knew where to take the song.
So you had that connection when you guys got into the
well,
studio. That's
there's no
amazing.
one who knows your heart better than your siblings. And
Hi, Iyo, Mandy. Yeah.
so I was very fortunate that he was game to do it, and he knew, like, I could tell like his personal taste was coming out, and he would like hold back.
Bring
He
it
would be
back
like,
a bit.
okay,
Wow,
masyado na
that's,
to.
that's big, ah. That's, I mean, for him to pull it back for
Because
your...
he knows like what my goals
course,
are.
yeah.
Like, I wanted like a pop
Galing.
song talaga. So
So hindi siya nag-kuya, nag-producer talaga siya.
yeah, which
Galing.
I really, that's why I would cry, and then it would aangat yung tears and iiyak ulit ako, because I was just so grateful that I fought my way back.
Galing.
Yeah. And like to be in Tower of Doom, and it's the new Tower of Doom pa. I was like,
The Killers
oh
too.
my
Oh
God.
God.
Parang,
Yeah.
I was just crying out of gratitude for everyone who stuck it out with me.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, that was insane. Like, just listen to the song and knowing who, you know, laid their tracks on it. And I was just like, you know, if this is the last song I ever release, I'm good. Like, I'm good.
No, we're getting lots of
Yeah.
songs from you, please.
So
I
you
mean,
are.
So you said the word, you're glad you fought your way back, and the song is a fighting song. Man.
Yeah.
So I mean, so let's talk about that. There's a lot of incendiary lines in it.
Yeah.
Di dapat matakot ang walang tinatago.
Yeah.
Is one. So
When you say it back, it's parang, why am I so angry?
it's quite angry.
Yeah.
So ano yung pinagmulan ng mga lyrics na yan?
I've always thought about what I would say when asked this question by someone I know, because I can't lie. I cannot lie. But I think the most diplomatic way of explaining it is, I think the song is a response to being told as a woman in the industry, tumahimik ka na lang. Yeah. And I've been, like, syempre, bunso ako, so I'm used to I don't rock the boat. I'm very quiet. I'm very happy-go-lucky when I was starting out. But as time went by, there were things, you start to come into your own. And you start to see things behind the scenes that you don't agree with and that you don't approve of, that don't align with your values. And I think a lot of things in the industry are people helping other people just get away with things. And for me, I just realized I don't need to be a part of whatever is going on. So I just told myself, I'm just gonna stand alone. And whatever challenges that comes with standing alone, I'm just gonna fight through it. Because I've fought through everything so far. And yeah, so that this song, because I'm not the type to go on long Facebook rants. I'm not even on Twitter. So if anyone ever heard anything from me, I told myself it would be through a song. But that's it. Take it as you will.
So you interpret it.
You interpret it like it's on you. But that any question anyone ever had for me, I would just be like, this song.
Wow.
That's it. So that was a response, not just in general to everything I've experienced as a woman in the industry. To anyone who's ever told me, just play along. This is my thing.
It takes courage to do
Yeah,
that, to say that, to immortalize it in a song.
To fight back is a very dangerous thing in an industry so small, like the music industry.
Yep.
But I didn't grow up like a normal way. As I have a very strange upbringing, and I was raised to stand up for what I believe in. But it's scary to do that as a girl. Because you're easily branded. And I'm sure when the song came out, like, I was branded as like, oh, she's a bitch.
And just being...
She's just whining.
Yeah.
But this is the most graceful way I can fight back. And so this is my response. And I feel like I just needed to do this for myself to get it out. I think it's dangerous territory, but I truly, at this point, don't really care. I don't know if that comes off arrogant or whatever, pero I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy to make music again and kind of fight my way to find my place again. So this song was for me, not really for anyone else. So I'm just happy it's out. Now I can write my silly little love songs. But I just needed to come out with a bang, and I feel like this is a good...
More angry song.
Yeah, I know. That's why it was a gauge of what I wanted, how people would respond. It was a very scary decision to put it out also. Kasi the last time people heard me, I was playing Teenage Dream on the ukulele. So what happened? But it's
She took a turn.
Yeah, something happened. But it's a reintroduction. I have a new name.
Yeah.
I couldn't just sing
the same
things. There needs to be character development and everything.
Sure.
It makes for an interesting story too. People, as much as they're interested in the music, will be interested in the journey also.
For sure.
And I've known that early on because there was also interest, doing the voice. There was interest in my life instead of just what I could offer. So I was like, if you want to know, I will always put it through song.
Let the song do the talking. So, so conversely, I don't know if I can't say conversely because the other song, Storm Like Me, is equally incendiary, but in a different way.
Yeah.
But it's more somber. Ang Nag-Iisa has that groove, it's angry, but then this one, it's angry, you can say, but it's more somber. Can you take us through Storm Like Me?
So Storm Like Me, well, you have kids, so like, do you believe in self-soothing? Like, bahala na sila, like, if they have to learn how to...
We tried, but
it's hard as a parent.
Yeah.
But this song came from a moment of self-soothing for me. Kasi parang, it was the fastest song I've ever written.
Wow.
It was just like, I wanted to write, it was a moment of just disappointment and everything, and just being misunderstood. And it's when you have no filter that people tend to misunderstand your emotions and everything. And I just felt very isolated, and I wanted to write it down. And I wanted to write about the isolation. But my desk has a piano, so it's like, okay, I guess this is gonna be a song. And there are many songs I've written just from that emotion, but this is the first time that it came out nice. So parang the words flowed and everything. So it was me telling myself that it's gonna be okay, that it's okay to be complicated. Actually, everyone is complicated, but people tend to put a mask on. And this was me sort of like unmasking myself. It's okay. Telling myself it's okay.
So I'm a little unsteady. But
a little dramatic.
Yeah.
But that passes quickly because some moment, all emotions are fleeting. So it was so quick the way it came out. And when I finished it, I was like, oh, I think I gigged it out almost immediately. And it made so much sense. Like, it was the yang to the yin of Ang Nag-Iisa.
That's true, yeah.
So that's why I felt like it needed to be released sabay.
It's the perfect combo.
Yeah, so ang Storm Like Me was just me telling myself, like me soothing myself. Okay, it's okay to, wear your emotions on your sleeve, wear your heart on your sleeve. That doesn't make you any less of a person. So I was telling people at the start, Ang Nag-Iisa and Storm Like Me are different facets of grief. How rage manifests differently. You can be angry like Ang Nag-Iisa, or Storm Like Me, where you sort of become introspective and, parang also recognize that there's something, that there's things you can't control. So they're yin and yang, so they're partner songs.
But what I like about Storm Like Me is it's unapologetic. Obviously, it's in the line.
Yeah.
I'm not sorry.
I'm not sorry.
This is what I am. You've never met me, someone like me, a Storm Like Me. So it's a yin and yang, but it's also still very still very FU.
Actually,
you know what I mean?
Ate Barb was my vocal producer. We recorded the vocals in our closet at home. And then she was like, "You're so passive aggressive." I was like, "I know."
Yeah, they are passive aggressive.
Yeah, but it was just because I feel like, especially in the creative industry, there's a lot of not being true to yourself. There's a lot of playing a role. There's a lot of secrecy. And I was like, I don't want to be part of this.
Right.
And usually when that happens to a person, they tend to not want to make music anymore. It happens. You get disheartened by the realities of an industry and you just give up. Is this getting too close to home?
Good Lord.
Yeah, but for me,
okay.
I'm not a quitter. And I should not be attempting a debut at this age. Like, I'm not an up-and-coming. I was the up-and-coming girl to watch before. And at this age, and especially now, I'm married also, parang at this point, you should be giving up. You are advised to kind of
settle down.
Yeah, but for me, I feel like no one's saying these things, and that's a role I think I'm brave enough to play, because I don't think anyone's brave enough to do that yet. So it's the funny thing is, and we talked about it prior to this. I wrote these songs for the girls. I wrote these songs for a young me who was starting out in the industry, and sort of being taken advantage of for being naive, for being like a young girl in the industry. So I wrote this for those girls. But the funny thing with Storm Like Me is, I got so many DMs from guys. From guys who are like, oh, I like your new songs. I'm like, Nag-Iisa? I'm like, no, Storm Like Me. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is hitting a demographic I did not think. I didn't think it would hit. And I started opening shows for Kamikaze this past month, which I would have never thought I would be on their radar. But it was Boards, the drummer, who messaged me, and he was like, oh, I heard your song. I was like, oh, kuya, ang Nag-Iisa. He's like, no, Storm Like Me. I was like, what? What? So it's taking on a life of its own in a very gradual pace. So I just released these with no expectations, but I like where it's heading. So I feel like the question I always had when I was gonna come out with these songs is there still a place for me? And I feel like there still is.
Absolutely.
So thank you. So that's what I'm still, that 1% of hope is what I'm still fighting for.
Ganda nun.
Yeah.
Ganda. Okay, so let's stick with that theme of hope. We're on the podcast, we like to ask practical advice, pragmatic advice. You gave a bunch already, but let's say you're talking to a young female musician like yourself. What would you tell her if she's like, I don't know if there's a place for me. I don't know if I should be unapologetic. What's your advice for her?
I feel like the younger musicians now are so lucky because you are allowed, there is more space and there's more allowance to have a range of emotion in your songwriting. What I noticed before when I was coming out, and there wasn't really much of a scene when I came out with the ukulele. I remember playing ukulele gigs and my set was between Greyhounds and Chicosay because there was no girls. It's that weird in between where Barbie Kitschy, Julian, they were the only ones really playing, and the only gigs I could find were fronting for the Razorback and all of that. And I was like, I'm just gonna take it. I'm just gonna take these gigs. And I feel like for anyone, but I feel like I have no sense of like walang hinto. Parang I just kept saying yes to everything, and I lost that for a bit, but it's coming back now. But for the young girls who feel like they don't have a place, I feel like this is such a cliche piece of advice, but the more genuine you are, the more raw you are in your emotions, especially in this era of our music industry, there is space for you. There's space for everyone actually, but you just have to stick with it because people will keep throwing things at you. The more and more you stand your ground and the more and more you stand in your values, people will ostracize you. They will isolate you if you don't play the game. If you don't play the game, it's what happened to me. And I just feel like the more you know who you are and the more immovable you are in your values, the more you don't fear not having a place, because you will create your own. You're gonna create your own space eventually. And I'm still trying that now. This is not advice coming from someone who's on the other side. This is advice coming from someone who's in the middle of it. Who's in the middle of it. And we're all still going through it. Like even when I talk to Ate Barb, when I even talking to like Army, who's also like, they're all sort of in this era of newness with themselves. And that sort of tells me like, okay, it's never ending. It's never ending and it's okay. It's okay. So yeah, I don't know if that's good advice.
That's
for...
amazing advice. I'll take that to heart. So, unfortunately, we don't have much time left. So let's leave the podcast with you. Tell people where they can find you, what your future plans are, and
You can find me here at Good Sauce Studios. I'm not gonna leave. Yeah, you can just find me on the internet. Just look for Kai Del Rio. The songs are on Spotify or anywhere you stream your music. Just look for Kai Del Rio Storm Like Me. Ang Nag-Iisa, keep streaming. And yeah, I'm coming out with new songs soon. Like, I got the ball rolling, so probably won't be as angry. Actually, I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, the new songs are coming. Just follow me and you will find the gig sked there. Or if you like random reels and shit, then just go. I'm there. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.